us. Fantastic. Hello, everybody. All right. So let's look at the Food Matters project. Well, actually, does anybody have any questions like leading up to this? Any questions about the class or content assignments or tests or anything, since we haven't had a lot of time, any time really, to check in person? And yeah, people reach out through email. I try and get back to you as soon as I can, but any questions? I'll stop talking.
Not a lot of questions, but so the Food Matter paper relates to the Food Inc. Video that we're watching, or
It,
more?
it does.
Okay.
And really, I'll explain the relevance today. It really,
Okay.
if I was going to have a paper, which I do, and help, people do research and help teach research and writing and stuff,
Mhm.
I want it to be relevant for everybody. So if I
Right.
was like, we should do it on the Chicago Bulls, I mean, a lot of people might be like, yeah, but a lot of people would be like, no. And
Eh,
so, what we all have in common is that we all eat to survive. And
Right.
so the first question that I really kind of start off by asking is, what's your relationship with food?
Right.
And it's, it, it it's something that, I mean, I know that's a very academic question, right? Because nobody's just like, hey, what's your relationship with food? Like, nobody's nobody's using that as a pickup line probably, or anything else. But I think the more we understand our relationship with food, the more we understand our culture and these big picture things that we're talking about, and small picture things, and everything from like health to like health statistics, right? Why do people of a certain gender or race live like shorter lives? And how is that related to nutrition and health and food deserts and all sorts of things? So the reason I do the food paper is because I feel it's sort of common ground for us. But I would say this, and that's a good question. The Food Inc. discussion, a lot of people have seen Food Inc., a lot of people have not, but I think it's a good primer for this. And you could even use it as a source in some way. So if I can build sort of our awareness early on in the semester that we're looking at food, our relationship with food, food production, I mean, and then of course, as I'll get to this in the paper, I really, the content assignments test your knowledge of the text, and this is important in a 100, but I want you to be able to write something interesting and something that you want to. And so a section of this paper lets you do that too. And that's what I want for students. I don't want to write these really dry assignments. That's why we have a food drive for extra credit. How many of you need to write another paper? And what does that do for us? It doesn't do anything for us. Does it feed people in our community? Nope. So anyway, I'm trying to have a multi-level approach here, where people with different learning styles and just students in general, have a chance to look at that. But so as a, not a freebie, but if you're going to watch that documentary, you can use it as a source, and maybe that discussion online will generate some ideas too for people's paper topics. All right. Any other general questions about the class? Anything that I can help clarify for anybody here?
Yeah, I was wondering for the tests, they say exam tests or like essay tests or whatever. Does that mean that it's just like essay structured and there's no multiple choice?
Exactly. And the reason that I do this is for retention purposes. Like, it's funny when I introduce myself, like to my class, I'm like, I live on a farm and we grow organic food, and my son's names are Storm and Zion, and everybody's like, oh, what a big hippie. And I laugh at that because, like, maybe a little bit, but most important for me is retention. And if you write these essays with the text and you reinforce that knowledge, and then we get to the exam and you're reinforcing that, then more retention. We learn more, we keep this information. Because otherwise, right, it's a social 100. This information is like, see you later. Have a good one, right? And it's like in and done and gone. Soch to me is so very important for our relationships in our life, and that whole cultural pluralism piece, being able to see things from somebody else's perspective, invaluable for us as human beings. So the essay exams actually will be the exact same or very close to the essay questions I'm asking you weekly. They'll be worth 25 points, meaning if you're keeping up and writing good content essays, then when it comes time for the exam, you can copy and paste what you've done, add a little bit of your own personal insider experience, add a little bit more to that essay. Maybe you're writing a 25-point essay every week anyway, and all you do is roll up to the test and copy paste. To me, the more we reinforce the correct information, the better we are, the more information we retain. And yes, that's why it's not my job to trick my students. It's my job to help you succeed. And in that way, you know exactly what to expect on these tests. And let's admit it, I mean, in my live classes that are like 100 to 200 people, yeah, you got to do A, B, C, D, true, false. Has anybody ever taken a fantastic multiple choice exam? I don't think so. Like, you might have done well, but nobody takes a multiple choice exam and walks away and is like, wow, I'd love to do that again sometime. Like, no, and it's not the best way to test our knowledge. Okay. Any other questions about anything else? That's a good one coming, since, you know, the test probably will open in a couple weeks. It'll be open for like a week or 10 days. And you have to answer, I think, 8 of the 13 or 15 questions. I think it will not be a point of stress. It is worth 200 points. And so, you know, there's got to be a reward. Jason, why are you having us write 10 point? I'm writing a lot for 10 points every week. Trust me, when you use it for that 200 point, you know, essay test, you're going to be like, oh, and I mean, you're probably already like that, whatever. But you know what I'm saying. It's important to use the right material instead of regurgitate the wrong material. All right. Any other questions about the class? I talk a lot. I've had a lot of coffee today already, so I'll be quiet for another minute. No? All right, cool. You know, I always invite everybody to subscribe to the YouTube channel, not because I'm going to be ditching teaching for YouTubing anytime soon, although my kids tell me I should do that. It's just so that you get a notification right when I would post a video or something. You know, a lot of these videos you might be, oh my gosh, I thought a cat fell down behind the couch, but somebody remotely started this printer. That would be my son, so sorry about this for one moment. This is Storm, everybody. Hey, Storm. Oh, come on. I'm gonna point it towards you. Oh, embarrassed teenager. Ooh. Anyway, he plays stand-up bass and orchestra and electric bass too. And then my 13-year-old is a drummer. So I've got a rhythm section in my house, and I've been a musician for forever and ever and ever. So not too shabby to have your own rhythm section in your house. Anyway, all right. I'm sure I'll hear about that later. I'm sure I will be shunned for that later. Yes, for embarrassing him in front of a Zoom meeting. All right, so let me go ahead. I'm going to do let me pull up this PowerPoint here. Now, if you've it might be listed for the chapter 3 PowerPoint on culture. So you have likely seen or could see this. Let me share this. Yeah, there we go. And so you have access to this, but I'm just going to walk us all through it. And then you can ask some questions. I'll keep this, you know, brief, but maybe we can even generate an idea for your paper. So would you say you eat mostly fast food on the go, mostly organic food, whatever's in front of me? I just have some questions that I get to. That's not my chicken, but it's good looking chicken. How important are the ingredients of your food to you? Very important, mildly, never read the label. This is food. Look, we all come from, oops, sorry, that should be April 5th, I believe. And that's listed in your syllabus. Sorry about that. You know, everybody here eats differently. Some people eat really well in college, and not because you love organic food or want to save the environment, but because you've got some kind of like allergy to all the preservatives or additives in food. So maybe it's just like a functional thing for you. Maybe you know that it's better certain kinds of farming than other kinds of farming. Maybe you are just a college student who eats whatever, whenever. I used to do that, and here's how much I did that. We used to eat Martha Gooch. That's right. Well, you know, nobody, like, I can see your faces. You're like, what is that? That would be the 33-cent mac and cheese. There's like, oh, what do they call it? Generic mac and cheese, like, you know, mac and cheese, organic mac and cheese, generic mac and cheese, special kitty food, and then Martha Gooch is down here. Anyway, so some people are maybe just eating ramen and whatever you can get your hands on to survive. It is inescapable that COVID has changed the way we eat. I mean, how many people here used to eat out a bunch and just, you know, breaks on that one, you know, in so many different ways. So this last year, in addition to all the other stuff, right? This last year could have been a revelation, positively, negatively, somewhere in the middle, for people just regarding food and food access, right? going to the store and trying to get a certain kind of food really shows how frail and at risk our food system is, right? And not for something like transportation that I would have thought in the past, but for something like pandemic. So we're going to look at the sociology and relationship of food in our culture, what we eat, what's being done to regulate and protect our food. I mean, infrastructure, that's a big deal here in this country. A lot of places do not have that. What's in our food? A good question, Jason. There's non-food ingredients in food that we allow in certain amounts. So like chemical degreasers, things that are found in cosmetics and makeup, anti-foaming agents. But not everything that is in your food is insidious just because it has a big long name to it. We'll look at that. And of course, what social problems or benefits arise with our relationship of food? Look, how about food inequality? Have you heard of the term a food desert? How can there be a food desert in a giant city? That seems ridiculous. Yeah, well, not so ridiculous. When we look at where grocery stores are and where they aren't and why that is. So of course, in sociology, we are always looking at inequality. How are things functioning, the functionalist perspective, and then the conflict perspective. Where is that not working? And how is it not working? And how can we get it working for more people? I mean, how can we have so much money, be this affluent of a nation, and have so many people that are food insecure that don't know where their next meal is coming from? I mean, if you're a sociologist, those are the things that make you go, There's an old reference for it. All right. The Food Matters assignment, and I'm just going to read through it to you. Look, it incorporates all of our objectives, right? I want you to get a new perspective on how you eat or what you eat and how it's made. And again, some things might be like, okay, yes, I admitted before, maybe I'm a Star Wars fan. I have so many Star Wars toys that are like by me everywhere. Like, it's just ridiculous. That being said, not everybody, right, is into Star Wars. Like, so I know that's a shame, but so doing that paper, we don't depend on Star Wars to live. Well, some of us do. But for the rest of us, food and eating, and that's survival, and that's why we're doing it, right? So to help you understand your society, we got to look at how it is in that historical piece, what it was. My dad used to say that, and what it shall be. So the past, the nowish, it's not now, because now the second that word leaves my mouth, it's past, nowish. And then the future, right? So food is a big part of our society. We're going to look at that and how those choices impact us, right? I mean, just like you spend money on anything else, you vote with your dollars for food. And that, maybe that's just how you can or what you have to, or maybe that's a choice. Like, I don't know, for like 15 years ago when Storm was born, he's eating organic baby food. We're making him organic peas and grinding them. We're doing all that. And I sit across about 6 months across the table from Julie, and I'm like, how come we don't eat that way? And she's like, because you complain about how much it costs. And I'm like, all right. I surrender. I won't. Because we know scientifically and in all sorts of other ways that this food holds up. It is valuable. It is scientifically, there's a lot to organics and food production method, inequality and social justice, right? So we started that. And I would say that how those choices impact us, that's a big deal. And it can be really dramatic, right? Here's just some orange juice recall link. The other is, and a very interesting one, is our USDA government link of recalls. Now, I am not sure what shape this list is or this website is after, data collection and science taking a back seat for the last while. That's not a political statement. That's a reality statement as we get back to it. I think that everybody here in this class supports science. Why would you be paying $100,000 plus to get a degree that says, I got a degree in science? All right. So we know masking is right. We know that, recalls and science data collection is important. It's really interesting to see how many recalls there generally are in what a short amount of time. Now, one thing that says is that our food production is out of hand. It's big and it can't prevent things like glass shards in your food and listeria and salmonella. On the other hand, that means we have massive amounts of infrastructure that keep that food from getting to people and getting them sick. Right? So, here's a couple links and a couple different ways to look at food and do some food research. Number two, to help you understand our social world, again, as it is and as it might be. Nobody in sociology, there's no sociologist that's looking at teenage pregnancy and like, oh, that's interesting. And then they walk on. Like, no, you do that so that you can collect that data so that you can make a change, right? And hopefully, or most likely, or the intention is to make a positive change. So you're going to come across data and analyses that demonstrate the impact of growing food, how it has an impact on our planet. And I say both good and bad. It's not that. It's not one or the other. We get tricked into that thinking. There are many, many, many minis, right? It's not one or the other. You'll then be able to develop an analysis on your own. So data collection. It's really important that we collect data and that we use that, because this is a social science. It's not just like how we feel about things. Yes, I had you make a social observation, a very like loose kind of like, what do I see? And I'm just people watching, because we all people watch. But then there's applying theory and science. And that's what we're doing, of course. Oh, little piggies. Sorry. I think they're so cute. I want to have some pigs on our farm someday. But I know I wouldn't sell them or eat them because they're smarter than dogs. So I would probably just have this very large lifetime pet. All right. So understand yourself better. Look, why do you eat the way you do? What impact does it have? I think we need, and it's important for us as sociologists not to look at society, but ourselves. We can't always just look without. We have to look within. Why do you behave the way you do? Why do other people? You may not know that. This project may change your eating habits. It might not. When people watch Food Inc., sometimes they're like, or Fast Food Nation or McDonald's, whatever, that supersize me. A lot of people are like, never eating fast food again, and they don't. A lot of people are never eating fast food again, and that night at 2 a.m. they're like, oh, that movie was a long time ago, like 3 hours. So this might not change your habits, or it may, but it will give you more insight into all of this, right? Paula Deen. Nobody that I would like to make me some biscuits and gravy more than Paula Deen, because the number one ingredient is always butter. This assignment requires multiple components: research, critical thinking, comparative analyses, and you're going to see them in all social courses, and you're going to see these things in almost all of your other courses. Why am I, Jason, are you just trying to justify? No, I think it's important to like have a rationale for why this is important for us. This is, higher education. And hopefully this opens up our eyes to other topics too, right? Like growing GMO fields and spraying pesticides in areas of Hawaii where they're right next to schools that get like hundreds of kids sick. Wow. Like this isn't just a food issue. This can be a human rights issue and a social justice issue. And I mean, issues of the environment. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated while working with striking Black garbage workers. He was working on environmental stuff as well, right? Human rights conditions. So I think that this applies to just about everything across the board. So I think it's a really good, complete way to look at it. Now, I'm going to take you quickly through all of these. There's 3 sections, and you can get one of these sections done real quick, okay? So first section worth 40 points. You make a list. And after I say this and explain this, I have a couple slides that show you also how this will look in your paper, okay? So I want a list of 10 foods, maybe 10 foods that you eat, or 10 foods you know that are eaten, whatever. So they have to have a list of ingredients. And I say go to the grocery store. You can look it up via the miracle of the intranet. Or if you do go to the grocery store, you can go and you're like, spaghetti sauce conventional, so not organic. Take a picture of the ingredients. Turn around the other side of the aisle, and a lot of King Soopers, it's right across from it, right? Spaghetti sauce organic, mac and cheese organic, mac and cheese conventional, and you do that down the list for 10 foods that have ingredients, and you're just listing all of the ingredients, okay? And here's what it looks like. I'll go back to that other page. But if you've got ketchup, you've got organic over here, you've got non-organic over on the left. I don't know, and a lot of times you'll be able to look at it, and some things it's like, wow, that non-organic thing has like 20 ingredients and the organic thing has 4. How can you screw up ketchup? Trust me, people can even screw up ketchup. All right. So you've got this right here. And then you need to take 10 specific ingredients from that list and include a little sentence or 2 on your findings. So research on that ingredients. Maybe it's high fructose corn syrup, red dye number 10, diplethyl-methyl-laurylfluorine. I don't know. I'm making that up, but there is a anti-foaming agent that I was just reading about, and I won't get into detail with. Some of that. If you see a really long name and you look it up and you do research on it, it might be salt, right? Or it might be a preservative that is known to cause cancer or contribute to ADD. So this is where you have, and this is what it looks like. you have 10 of these then. You got the 10 foods with ingredients in this list, and then you have just 10 specific ingredients. So potassium sorbate, found in conventional syrup, Parmesan cheese, found a list, deemed unsafe from Whole Foods website, but also stop molding of foods from great. So you have maybe a citation there, right? And your first channel or the first page of Google is not, the best place to look for that citation necessarily. So, take a look at a couple things, find it, and then write 1 or 2 sentences. So section 1, 40 points, listing of 10 foods with ingredients, and then 10 specific ingredients. You can do that anytime right now. It's really easy. If you go online, I imagine one of my best friends, copy and paste, you could probably find the ingredients, that way online. And if you're going to the grocery store, taking pictures of comparable foods is you could do that as well. Just be safe. I'm never gonna assign somebody like you have to go to the grocery store if you don't have capability to do so, or if it's unsafe for you to do so, or always mask up and be safe, right? All right. Section 2. So section 1 was 40 points, and there's no page number, it's listing. Section 2 is 2-page single-spaced essay, food facts. And I want like farming perspectives, like how do they grow genetically modified foods, maybe a little bit about organically grown foods, locally grown foods. We're doing some research at growing like perspectives, farming perspectives. This is the science part. This is the part where you're gathering data. And even though you love organic food, you're going to look at that, and you're going to look at this, and you're going to look local, because I think conventional and organic are only 2 of the options. One of the most important things we can address right now is local, right? How far does your food travel? We sell our eggs, and eggs that you get in the store have a fraction of the nutrient content after being shipped and stayed in a store for a month or 6 weeks as an egg that comes off my farm. The physical, scientific, statistically measurable protein value of that, right? So local is important to throw in there. How we create food, how we consume it, and maybe even distribute it. Okay, that's 50 points for 2 pages single spaced. And part 3 is 2 pages single spaced of, and this is the biggest, worth the most amount of points, some kind of cultural perspective here. Could be a social movement, social movements regarding food, awesome. Safety, cultural practices, medical things, health trends. Nothing on obesity, nothing on eating disorders. People have written entire books on those things, and you're just looking at 2 pages. So what, Jason, then would be, because I have down here your obesity, and just none of that. But what about this? My partner works at Vitamin Cottage, and somebody comes in and says, I'm a 5th level vegan. And she's like, I don't know what that is. But she smiles, and he says, I basically can't eat anything with a shadow. Now, what I'm looking for would be some of that fake meat burger that even has fake blood and smells like cooking flesh. Okay. You just got me interested as a sociologist. Why would you be a vegan and then want this thing here that's smells like, and even has fake beet juice for blood? What about that? Right? So non-meat or plant substitutes, or veganism and that. How about, because veganism could be eating nuts and berries and whole foods and be very, very good for you. And it could be the most highly processed diet you choose to eat, right? It could be little for column A, little for column B. How about weightlifting and bulking up and that subculture of eating in ways that just packs on protein or something like that. Because that is interesting of itself. Local CSAs, community shared agriculture, or a local farm. Call somebody. I think in Fort Collins, Happy Hearts Farm was the first CSA in the United States. Dennis and Bailey, some of the hardest working old hippies you'd ever know. They're just brilliant people, loving people. So maybe you want to talk to somebody why would you get into farming? I'm a musician, teacher, farmer. Those are the 3 lowest, earning, hard to do. Why would somebody do that? I mean, I don't rely on any one of those. I do a combination, but people that are just farmers, why is that important to you? Food insecurity in your community. Because this is 2 pages, I'd like you to get as specific as you possibly can about this. But for part 3, it's cultural piece, and it can't be eating in America or fast food culture, it's got to be, like I said, something a bit more specific and interesting. Now, what do you think? Does anybody have an idea for this section and they want to ask if that's a potential thing? I could speak to that, or not, or whatever. Does anybody have an idea or something that they're like, I wonder if that would work?
I think I have a question.
Sure.
No, I have a question. So, through different health things that I've gone through, there are very specific diets required for, like, there's a concussion protocol, or if you have thyroid disorder or different things like that, because those types of things have greatly impacted the way that I've had to eat. And also, especially after having a TBI, how my recovery could go potentially. And so I didn't know if that was something that I could talk about when.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. Sorry about that.
No, you're okay.
I think it's very interesting. I mean, I did not know about this. Are they connecting like recovery from a concussion and diet now?
So
Because that seems like amazing to me, because we just not connected this body mind, like so many ways that food is connected that we haven't. Sorry, I'll be quiet because that's interesting.
No, I thought it was interesting as well. So basically, after a head injury, inflammation is one of the largest contributors to, first, the damage, and then also the recovery. And so when I went first to the neurologist and she was making a referral to another place to get additional treatment, she was like, I'm going to have you start on this protocol now. You need to cut out a lot of carbohydrates because they're so inflammatory. So basically it was reducing inflammatory foods, obviously carbs being a large component. And then of course, getting more information. It's like protein, fats, high fats, healthy fats, protein, and vegetables, fruit and vegetables. Those were fine. But any other carbohydrates, the carbs you get from fruits and vegetables were fine, of course. But the breads, the pastas, the beer, the whatever, were all things that are highly inflammatory and can impede your recovery.
Right. Wow. Yeah. And then are you like taking supplements or like turmeric or juicing or things like, do they also then go
Yes.
pro things that reduce inflammation?
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Wow. Sorry. I just think I did not know that. And I do have a 13-year-old who plays basketball and is like Dennis Rodman. So every game is just about a concussion.
Absolutely.
I think any of those would be fantastic and really interesting. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
That's a great example of how to get like specific with something that we haven't all heard and done, or know about, really, because you also might have an interest. You don't know everything about it. That's why the research, right? Why the research in the first place? Okay, good. Anybody else? I know there's just a few of us here, but anybody have any ideas?
I guess I'll ask because that kind of wasn't sure the direction. It's interesting. The person just spoke because their medical conditions do have food intake has a very strong relevancy to them. So, but anyway, my question, the point where I was thinking of maybe going as you were speaking about the food matters is, I have a friend who has a farm. He initially inherited it from his grandfather. It used to be a tobacco farmland, and it's like 140 acres, but he keeps 10 acres of it to use for stuff, and he uses it for like chickens, and they go and they sell it to like farmers markets and things like that. And I was just wondering if should I do like an interview style, or would you like something more specific and related to like more engaging with that, or is that?
Yeah, I think I always think interviewing is a great idea. And interviewing the source, like reading books about something is really important, or gathering data. But one of the best ways to gather data is talking to somebody who's doing it, and then you have to kind of find your whatevers. Like, did you get really into this and you weren't into it, but you just got the farm and now you are? How did that transformation take place? Or, you kind of have to find, and sometimes by doing an initial interview, which is great now because of Zoom, right? Because you can ask the person, I'm going to record this, and all the data is right there. You can go back, you can listen to the responses, but maybe an exploratory meeting with anybody who, people think is a good person to interview for their paper. And usually you kind of know within a small amount of time, like, wow, this is going to be gold for this paper. You know what I mean? Like, this is just going to be really interesting. Or, yeah, there's other people to interview. That's, it doesn't always, not everything provides really great quotes or data kind of thing. But I do believe there's a lot of room for that in there.
Right.
For sure.
Okay, more or less like just kind of going along the lines of why did you get into farming? How has it affected your intake? But just variations. I'll read more into what you want. So hopefully I'll be able to answer.
Absolutely. And this is just your first thought of this that might work, but send me an email. Or, we can continue to bounce ideas back and forth, with anybody, with everybody. So that's also, kind of one of the reminders I wanted to do for this is just, I don't see you very often, but I want you to have access to me, like it's not a big expensive school that it's just, you're another number. And I know that probably CU is a bit smaller and things like that, but the same access that you would in a very small classroom, that's kind of what I'm hoping for. So anybody here that has, that wants to bounce ideas off me, please do so. So single spaced for those sections 2 and 3. And I know, like Jason, I never do a single space paper. Well, I don't, type a double space and then shrink it. I don't like whatever makes you feel good about it. Font is 11 in a couple of these fonts. Now, here's the part where like substance, yes, is important, but you're also completing an assignment that you have to meet the bare minimums, right? You have to have the 10 ingredients or comparison ingredients, the 10 ingredients. You have to type 2 pages. My recommendation is do 2 pages in a little paragraph, because 90% of students, and I teach like 700, 800 students a semester at 3 different colleges, people generally do a little bit less than what is required. If you want to stand out, do a little more. I don't think that's a bad policy. At least 7 sources. Now, of course, you can use your textbook. That's a source. A Food Inc. could be a source. You're going to have an individual ingredient list, like 10 sources for those 10 ingredients anyway. This will not be a problem. Many of you will have more than that. I even have do not do less than the minimum, try doing more. Or do or do not. There is no try in the immortal words of Yoda. All right, so 40 points, 50 points, 60 points. April 5th is when it's due. That's right. So let me stop sharing here. Okay, any questions about the paper whatsoever? I want people to be able to reach out to me, and I want you to continue to feel good about it. And I know if you are not like me, but when I was in school, I may have waited until the night before a project was due, and because of how social I was, and then maybe had to belt myself to a chair or something and force myself. Don't do that. Whatever I did in college, occasionally, don't do that. Plan for this now, because you can complete section 1, which is just listing, super easy. And don't feel, oh, this is so overwhelming. It's not. Also, when you're writing a paper, you can send me, oh, here's a paragraph, here's a page. That being said, there are likely lonely English majors that are getting paid to help people write papers at CU. So if you have a writing center, you can always, I think, in your student, fees, that's all covered. So if you have people there and you're not, you're anxious or apprehensive about your writing, I'm here to help you, and the school has, folks to help. Any questions about any of this?
I just have one more question, just to for clarification. On the list that we do for the 10 foods, we do the conventional versus the organic. And then from that point, you said we do another 10 specific ingredients. So I wasn't clear on, we take of the ingredients we find on the conventional versus the organic list, and then we create another 10. Am I understanding that correctly? Or am I?
And you can pull those 10, because each food thing in the big list, it's going to have like 10 items, like 10 ingredients, many of them. People are like, can I do an apple? No, because it needs to have ingredients, right? Some of them might have 20, like in a little granola bar. So yeah, that's all that comparatively. Then you just pull out 10 overall of those hundreds of ingredients. I mean, pick out ones that are interesting that you don't know about or that you want to know more about. I mean, if it's in the food, furthermore, if you use these lists with food that you're eating, you might learn something about the food that you're eating that you didn't know before. Oh, this is more quality than I thought. Oh, this has got palm oil in it, and it destroys habitats. So there's an alternative, food that doesn't have that or whatever. So, maybe not. All right. Anybody else? Questions? No? Hey, thanks for showing up today. I will upload this to the YouTube channel. And then when I have time, because I have classes and stuff all day, then I'll try and upload it to our class. But like I said, that's the quickest point because it'll be uploaded there sort of just initially before it ever makes it, over here. So be good people and do good things and have a great semester, and reach out if you need any help, everybody. Take care. Peace. Yep, you're all welcome. Thanks. Bye.